and welcome to International Education Week. This is the last day and the last session of our virtual weekend roadshow here in East Asia and the Pacific. And our last topic is community colleges. And with us is Matthew DeSoi. He serves as the Associate Director of International Marketing and Outreach for Seattle Colleges. Matthew, thank you for joining us tonight, and I'll let you take it away from here.
Thanks so much, Vinny, and everybody coming from the EducationUSA teams in the East Asia and the Pacific region. Good morning, or excuse me, good afternoon to everyone in your region. Good morning from the West Coast of the United States. Again, my name is Matthew DeSoi, and I am the Associate Director of International Marketing and Outreach at Seattle Colleges, which is a district of 3 community colleges located in the amazing city of Seattle, Washington. So I'm going to share my screen so I can talk a little bit about community college. I think everybody can probably see that. So before I get started, I just want to talk a little bit about what I'm going to talk about so you have an expectation about what you're going to hear. As Vinny said, I'm going to talk a little bit about the US community college system. It's a really important system in the US. It's a very uniquely American system. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about my institution specifically to help give an example of how we apply the US community college system and what it means for international students. But the thing that I really love to start off with very quickly is just by talking a little bit about Seattle. It's a really important part of who we are as an institution. And I really do think that when you're looking at the United States, there are community colleges in almost every city in the United States. And so location is a really important part of the decision-making process. So we are located in the city of Seattle, which is located kind of right up here, in case you're not sure, in the top left-hand corner of the image in the Pacific Northwest region. We're right there in the middle of the state of Washington, not too far from Vancouver, Canada, and Portland, Oregon, and not too far from California by plane. Now, in the city of Seattle, my institution, which we call Seattle Colleges, has 3 different campuses. We have Seattle Central College right in the downtown, and then North Seattle and South Seattle Colleges, each about 7 kilometers outside of the city center. If you haven't yet been to Seattle, it really is known as one of the most beautiful cities in the US. And I say that I'm not even from Seattle, and I've fallen in love with it. It is one of the best cities that I've ever been to. It's surrounded in every direction by beautiful mountains, beautiful water, really great architecture. There are a lot of cultural institutions here like markets, museums, and libraries. We are a very big sports city here in Seattle. Coffee is a really important part of the culture here in Seattle. Starbucks is originally from Seattle. The very first Starbucks is here in Seattle. But whether you like Starbucks or not, coffee has really become an important part of the everyday life of everyone here in Seattle. I do like to talk about how most of our students love to spend time in cafes. So no matter whether you attend my institution or one of the institutions, one of the other community colleges and universities that exist here in the Seattle region, cafe culture is kind of one of the big things that draws most people together, whether you're preparing for an exam, doing your homework, or just meeting with your friends. The other thing that Seattle is really known for is its nature, its access to nature. We are surrounded by the mountains, in some cases, some of the tallest mountains in the United States. So in the summertime, our students love to go hiking and camping. All types of water activities are very easily accessible right from the downtown. We're not too far from the ocean, so it's very easy, especially in the warmer months, to spend time at the ocean. And then in the winter months, all types of winter activities. So I like to start off simply by saying that Seattle is a really great place to live, which makes Seattle a great place to study. So just to start off again, a little intro to my institution, because it helps you, I think, in the long run to understand how the US community college system works. As I mentioned, we have the 3 different campuses. So Seattle Central College It's located in right in the downtown area of Seattle, and it is located in one of the most vibrant neighborhoods, very popular among young people. Lots of coffee shops and restaurants, retail shops. So it's kind of it's just a very vibrant neighborhood. When you walk outside of the doors, you're kind of immersed in city life very quickly, and a lot of our students are attracted to an environment like that. But it's not for everybody. So one of the nice things is that at my institution, we actually give you multiple options to choose from when it comes to campus environment. If being in the downtown city center and kind of right in the middle of the hustle and bustle is not your perfect environment, we actually have two other campuses that offer very different environments. South Seattle is a much quieter, more residential campus. It's located about 7 kilometers south of the city center. And it does resemble much more of a traditional college campus. So if you think of large walkways, big buildings, a lot of space, a lot of greenery, and it's also a little bit closer to the water. So it gives students what I like to think of as just a closer access to nature in your everyday life. And then the third is that we do have North Seattle College, located about 7-8 kilometers north of the city center. And it's what we like to call a semi-urban environment. So if you're liking, you like the downtown hustle and bustle, you also like being close to nature, North Seattle College provides a really great kind of a mix of both worlds. So the thing I like to start off with is just talking about at my institution, and one of the things that makes my institution unique is the fact that we have 3 different campus environments that you can choose from. Now, to get to the main topic of my presentation, I'm really here to talk to you about what a community college is. As I said when I started, a community college is a particularly American concept. It's not something that exists widespread outside of the United States. So it's really important to help you understand how it works and how it fits into the greater higher education system. I like to start off by talking about that when you want to earn a traditional university degree, a bachelor's degree, it typically takes 4 years to complete the program. And when you start your bachelor's degree, you have 2 options for how you can start. Your first option, you can see on the right-hand side, is you can start directly at a 4-year college or university. You spend all 4 years at the same university or college, and at the end of those 4 years, you earn a bachelor's degree. So it's a pretty straightforward process. Your second option is you can start at what is called a community college. You can see on the left side of the screen. Community colleges are equal in their quality and level as to a university. So in that sense, they are all higher education institutions. So they offer the same level courses from an undergraduate perspective. But community college just typically offers the first 2 years of a traditional bachelor's degree. So typically just year 1 and year 2. In that time, students at community college typically take the exact same coursework that they would at university. So the coursework that you're taking is really no different. We are accredited by the exact same institution that accredits most of the universities in the state of Washington, including the University of Washington. So the quality of the education between a community college and a university really is no different. So when you start at a community college, you spend year 1 and year 2 with us. After those 2 years, you earn an associate degree, a 2-year degree. And then you transfer to university for year 3 and year 4. You focus typically on your major coursework once you get to university in year 3 and year 4. And you're still able to finish with a bachelor's degree after 4 years. So the first thing I like to highlight is one misconception. A lot of students ask, if I started a community college, is it going to take more than 4 years for me to earn my degree? And the typical answer is no. It can. It depends kind of on how you work your entire pathway. But in most cases, students will still finish within 4 years. So you don't really have to commit much more time to go to a community college to get started. Now, you might be asking yourself, why start at a community college? What are the benefits? I like to highlight 2 primary benefits. The first is really small class sizes, which gives you a lot more support from your teachers. if you were to go to kind of a big public university here in the city of Seattle, in some of those first and second year courses, you might have 100 students, 150 students, maybe even more in one classroom with one teacher. One of the nice things that community colleges are known for, as I said, is small class sizes. At all three of our campuses, the average class size is about 23. So it does give you a lot more attention from your teacher. Small groups I find are much more effective when it comes to learning environments. And so, those kind of the small classes I think are really beneficial to both American students and international students. And then the second thing I think is really important is our affordability. Community colleges are known around the United States and around the world for being very affordable options to start your bachelor's degree. Right now, at my institution, the tuition for international students is $9,687 per year. So generally, I would say that most community colleges in my in the Seattle area are all still about below the $10,000 per year mark. And I'd say that's a general rule across the US. Most colleges, most community colleges around the US, you're going to be able to pay less than $10,000 per year. Now, I do like to compare it. Tuition at a public four-year university like the University of Washington right now is about $38,000 per year for international students. And then tuition at a private university like Boston University right now is about $56,000 per year. So the savings when you start at a community college are really great. And the quality is the same. As I said, we are accredited by the same institution. So our classes go through the same vetting process as all universities. So, I like to highlight the affordability aspects of community college as being one of the most important. Now, let me talk a little bit about what makes my institution unique and what I think makes some other community colleges unique as well. The first thing is that my institution and many others around us, they do offer housing options. Not all colleges and universities in the US offer housing options. The first thing is that we do have homestays, so you can live with an American family. We do have on-campus apartments at our Seattle Central campus. And then if you're 18 years or older, you're actually given the opportunity to live off campus if you want. You can choose to live with a friend or by yourself. I typically like to put the range at my institution between about $700 a month on the lower end to about $1,300, $1,400 on the higher end. Obviously, Seattle is a big American city, so the cost of living can sometimes be higher, but there is a really great range in the city of Seattle of what you can spend on housing costs. One of the other things I think that makes Seattle colleges and many community colleges unique is very flexible admission. So we are always accepting applications. What that means is that Seattle colleges and most community colleges in the Seattle area operate on a quarter system. Now, I should note, this is not something that is unique to all community colleges in the US. The community colleges across the US, some are going to offer semesters, 2 semesters per year. Some might offer trimesters, which means 3 academic periods per year. Most academic institutions in the Seattle area, in the Pacific Northwest, they operate with 4 academic periods per year. We call them quarters. And what that means is that you're given 4 opportunities each year where you can apply and 4 opportunities when you can enroll. So right now at my institution, we're always accepting applications up to 1 year in advance. So right now you could apply for winter 2021, spring, summer, and fall all in 2021. So it gives you a lot more flexibility when you're planning out kind of when you want to start. You can apply very close to the deadline. So for example, we are still accepting applications for admission in January. Or if you're looking very far out, we're already accepting applications for fall quarter of next year. So community colleges give a particularly nice degree of flexibility when it comes to admission. So let me talk a little bit about the academic programs that my institution offers, because I do think it reflects very commonly what most community colleges offer across the US. The first thing is that we do have English language training on campus at all 3 of our schools. So one of the nice things is that when you study at a community college like ours, we can get you started even if your English language proficiency is not at a high enough level for direct college level placement. So no matter what your English language level is, we can help. We have 6 different levels of English language instruction. Each level takes about 3 months, 1/4 to complete. You'll see on the screen, level 1 tends to be for our most beginner learners, and level 6 are most advanced. Starting in level 4, you can actually start to take college level credits within your coursework. So starting in level 4, you really can start your degree program. So much so that by level 6, you are taking 2/3 of your classes are college level classes rather than English language classes. But the nice thing is, the thing that I want you to keep in mind is that community colleges are great places to look to improve your English language skills, especially before you enter a college level program. Most community colleges, at least in the direct Seattle area, are going to offer English language training programs for you. Now, the programs that typically get noticed the most at community colleges, they have different names. So keep that in mind. When you're looking at community college, each one is going to have a different name. You're oftentimes going to see the words 2+2 because of the 2 years at the community college, 2 years at university, 4 years total to earn your bachelor's degree. We call the program University Transfer. I think that's another common name, even though it's not exact at every institution. And really, it talks about starting at the community college, transferring to university, and really getting your bachelor's degree. Now, one of the nice things about community college is that they don't typically specialize in any major subject, but they actually offer almost every major subject. They offer the beginning elements of almost every major subject. So at my school, we actually have very few majors that you can't study. So to say that again, we offer almost every major subject. At my school, and I think in the Seattle area, the top 3 major subjects among international students typically is computer science, engineering, and business. And I think that does reflect the business environment here in Seattle. We are home to a lot of big companies, primarily the technology industry in the US. Amazon and Microsoft, as well as Google, Apple, Facebook, they all have big offices here, as well as Boeing. Boeing, the airplane manufacturer, is another huge company that is located here in the Seattle area. So I do think the nature of the business environment here in Seattle, it does reflect the fact that business, computer science, and engineering tend to attract most of our international students from abroad, including many students from Korea. We have a large number of students from Korea that are studying with us, as well as other countries in East Asia and the Pacific that are coming to study all types of majors. But the thing to keep in mind about community college is that you really can start almost any program. So another nice thing that you want to keep in mind when you're looking at a community college, we want to make the transfer process as easy as possible. So as I mentioned, you start off year 1 and year 2 with us, and then you transfer to university to finish up. What most community colleges have created university partnerships to make that transfer process as easy as possible. At Seattle colleges, we have about 20 partner universities, all of which offer a conditional guarantee of admission. So whenever you apply to Seattle colleges, you also receive a conditional guarantee of admission to one of 2 universities of your choice. These are a couple of our transfer admission guarantees, our university partners. You will see universities mostly on the west coast of the United States, although we have some geographically diverse institutions. Each one has a different grade average requirement as part of the condition of admission. And so what that means is that some of the institutions are going to have a higher grade average requirement, and some are going to have a lower grade average requirement. But in most cases, as long as you're not failing your coursework, you're probably going to have a direct pathway to a university if you want it. And that's something that does tend to run run through many community colleges all around the US. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that just because we have these university partnerships doesn't mean that you are required to choose one of those universities. International students can actually transfer anywhere. That's a really important thing to remember. We provide these university partnerships so that students know they have an ease of transfer. They have universities they can choose from where their application is going to be assessed solely on their grade average. However, if you are looking to attend a more competitive, a higher ranking institution, that's very possible, and we have students that do it all the time. So in the last year, we've had students that have transferred to Columbia University, Cornell, UCLA, UC Berkeley, the University of Pennsylvania, among many others. I do like to highlight that from the Seattle perspective, once students come to study in Seattle, they typically love it and they don't typically want to leave the city of Seattle. So our top, from my institution's perspective, our top two transfer destinations are the University of Washington, Seattle, which is a large public university, and Seattle University, a small private university, both located here in the city of Seattle. Now, I want to talk just very briefly about one of the things that makes Washington State particularly unique. So we are the only state in the United States that offers high school completion opportunities at the higher education level, so at the university level. What this means is that if you have not yet finished a high school education, or if you're currently in high school and you would prefer to get started with your bachelor's degree earlier, you actually can start with us after grade 10, and you're able to earn both your high school diploma and your associate degree at the same time. So the High School Completion Plus program is a 2-year program. In those 2 years, you complete all of the requirements for your high school diploma and your associate degree, so that after the program ends, you move directly into year 3 at university. So one of the nice things, it's a fast track program. So students do take what we call dual credits. Means you take one program and it applies to both your high school diploma and your associate degree. So one of the misconceptions about this program is that you somehow have to take more classes, or that you're taking more classes than your counterparts in other programs. That's actually not true. It's the same number of credits. The curriculum is just a little different than the average university transfer 2+2 program. Now for this program, for all of our programs, we do require a minimum age of 16. And then if you are underage, if you're a 16 or 17-year-old applicant, you do have to provide transcripts with your application showing that you've completed at least half of grade 10 and that you've earned a good grade average. We're looking for something in the range, from an American standpoint, of about a B. Now, once you turn 18, one of the nice things about community college is that once you turn 18 years old, we actually no longer have any requirements for past education. Community colleges are known to be open admissions institutions. That means that we are non-competitive. We accept 100% of students that apply. As long as you complete the application, you're going to be accepted. So actually, if you're 18 years or older, your grades, your transcripts, your diploma, any past education you have will not factor into your admission. That really is only for 16 and 17-year-old applicants who are looking for entrance into the High School Completion Plus program. So the last thing I'll talk about is our career training programs. This is something that community colleges are particularly well known for in the United States. And these really are vocational training programs. So high demand career fields that require very hands-on skills-based training. So they're a little different because the 2+2 program, the program that community colleges are well known for outside of the United States, they typically require additional education. So you spend 1 to 2 years here at the community college, and then you transfer to university to complete your bachelor's degree. Most vocational training programs, however, like the one I'm about to talk about, they're set up really for you to take a shorter term duration program, typically a 1-year certificate or a 2-year associate degree. And then what you do after that is you go typically right into the workforce. So they don't really prepare you as much for university transfer, but rather for going directly into a job upon finishing up. These are some of the programs we have across our 3 campuses in the career training realm. I like to highlight a couple, for example. So I like to highlight something like the culinary arts. in the United States, as well as I'm sure in most of the countries in East Asia and the Pacific, if you want to be a chef, if you want to work in a restaurant, you don't have to have a bachelor's degree. You simply have to know the skills of food preparation. So really, we have a program that's designed for helping you understand how to prepare food, how to work in a restaurant setting. And so I think that's a good example of what I'm talking about when I say vocational training. It's these fields that really don't require a great deal of education, but really require that you come in and you get started right away on skills training. So culinary arts is a good example. Hospitality management we have, which is great. Hotel management is a part of that. Aviation maintenance technology is very popular among our Korean students. That's located at our South Seattle campus. Computer science career training programs are really popular, primarily because of our location in Seattle and access to both internships and jobs in the tech field. Fashion design, graphic design. So the thing to keep in mind is simply that these are shorter term programs and they focus more on skills training rather than university transfer. And you typically will go directly into a job after the program completes. Business technology management is popular. We have a great nursing program at all three of our campuses. Fashion design, culinary arts, as I talked about, and aviation maintenance technology. These are some of our more popular programs among international students. So to finish up, I do want to highlight two things, and then I'll open it up to questions. The first is I do like to highlight both tuition and cost of attendance. So when you are looking at community college, you're going to want to look for two different sets of numbers. The first is tuition. So tuition is just the cost to study. That's the cost that you pay to the institution, to the college, for your classes. Now, you will see that our tuition is broken up by our intensive English language programs and college level programs, as well as by quarter every 3 months and by academic year every 9 months. So in this current school year, you'll see that our tuition for college level programs for 1 year is about $9,687. And then what you want to look to, so first look at tuition, and then look at the cost of attendance number. Cost of attendance is an estimate of all expenses together. So that would include tuition, fees, insurance, all of your books, your housing and your food, transportation. You will see here what that says miscellaneous. That typically means pocket money. So at my institution, we estimate that the average cost of attendance for 1 year for an academic program is $24,000. So just gives you a sense of what the cost of living here is to include tuition. So it gives you a sense when you are looking at community colleges, when you're looking at all institutions, make sure you're taking a look at both the tuition number and the cost of attendance. So it does give you a sense of what the cost of living is in the city where you're looking. Now, I talked at the beginning about our English language programs. Now, when you apply and when you start, we do ask that you provide English proficiency. We want to know that your English language skills are going to be high enough so that you feel comfortable to get started in the right program. Now, we give students two options to provide English proficiency. The first option is that we do accept exams like the TOEFL and the IELTS. So if you've taken an exam like the TOEFL or the IELTS, you can submit your score report for direct placement. At our school, we ask for a 64 or higher on the TOEFL IBT with a 17 or higher on the writing section, or a 6.0 or higher on the IELTS with a 5.0 or higher on the writing section. With one of those scores, you'll get placed directly into a college level program, meaning no English language training classes required before you start your college level. Now, I will say, while most community colleges in the Seattle area, at least, are going to be somewhere right in that level, they might differ a little bit, but generally most of them are going to be in a very similar level. If you score lower than that, that's absolutely fine. You can still submit your score report with your application. But you will place into one of our 6 levels of English language training. So it just depends on what you are looking for. But we do accept exams like the TOEFL or the IELTS during the admissions process. Now, I said there's 2 options. That was the first. The second is that if you haven't taken an exam like the TOEFL or the IELTS, or perhaps if you don't want to, we do not require them as part of the application process. If you want, you can choose on your application to take an English language placement test when you arrive on campus. So it really is your choice. You can submit a score report from the TOEFL or the IELTS, or you can take an English language placement test when you arrive at our school. So you get to choose, and we will let you know, we'll kind of help you through that process when you get started. The last thing I'll talk about is just our application requirements. I think these application requirements are pretty universal in that community colleges generally are very easy admissions processes. I'll start off first with what we don't require. We don't require the SAT. We don't require the ACT. We actually have no standardized testing requirements for admission. We don't require any letters of recommendation, and we don't require an essay. So the application is pretty easy. It's online. It takes about 20 minutes to complete. We ask for a $50 application fee that is required. We typically ask for proof of finances. So what this means is that in order to study and in order to get a visa, you do have to provide proof that you and your family have enough money to fund your education for 1 year. You don't have to pay this money. You simply have to show access to this money. So we at our institution, we require that students show at least $24,500 as part of the admissions process in some sort of bank statement. A copy of the passport page, that's a pretty easy one. Proof of English proficiency is optional, so you can submit a score report from the TOEFL or the IELTS if you have it, but it's not required. And then high school transcripts or a high school diploma, they're only required of 16 and 17-year-old applicants. So once you turn 18, we actually have no requirements anymore of past education. And that's it. That's the entire application. So community colleges like mine generally offer very easy application processes, and we typically have very quick turnaround. So right now we're processing applications with about a 3 to 4 business day window. So you'll typically hear back very quickly, and we will send all of your acceptance materials right now by email. So you'll get everything very quickly. So as I said, we have 4 different quarters coming up, but that's something that runs across many community colleges in the Pacific Northwest. These are the application deadlines for my institution. So I do want to make sure that you keep in mind that if you are looking at other institutions, they might not all have the same application deadline. So keep that in mind. You will see if you are outside of the United States and you're applying, you're considered a general applicant. And if you are inside the United States, if you're already studying on an F1 student visa, you'd be considered a transfer applicant. So I'd like to finish up, take some questions. The first thing that I do want to mention is just a quick update on where my institution is with COVID-19 and our response to the pandemic. Unfortunately, the United States has been particularly hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and Seattle is not immune to that. So since March, all 3 of our campuses and all of our staff members have been working remotely, as I'm sure many of my EducationUSA colleagues have been doing in their various countries. And so right now, for the foreseeable future, everything we do, almost everything we do is online. So all of our transfer classes that are part of the University Transfer and High School Completion Plus programs are online. As well as most of our career training programs. We do offer some in-person career training programs. For example, if you are enrolling in something like the culinary arts program or the aviation maintenance technology program, these are programs that are still offering either in-person classes or hybrid classes. But I would caution you to say that unless you're looking at a specific career training program that is offering in-person classes, 95% or more of our classes are online. That's going to continue right now through at least winter quarter, so at least March of 2021. Beyond that, we're really not sure at this point. We're hoping that we'll be able to return to normal in-person operations, but at this point, I cannot say. So for the foreseeable future, we will be operating online. If you're looking farther out towards admission, we are planning by summer and fall of next year to hopefully be back in person. So I have posted here on the page each of the 3 colleges' websites. So if you'd like to learn more about each one, you can read a little bit more. I also have posted my email address so that if you have heard something that you like, you're welcome to ask questions individually after the program has ended. The last thing I want to do is just thank my Education USA colleagues for allowing me to speak today. I know I've probably spoken much longer than they expected, so I apologize. But I do want to open it up to any questions that everybody may have. So I'm going to stop sharing my thing. And yeah, Vinny, are you going to field the questions? Should I?
I will. I will. I've got a few questions here coming from different sources, and thank you. There's actually plenty of time for questions.
Great.
I have two questions here, one from Education USA advisor, and one from somewhere else in the field, and both of them are about the high school completion program. And as you know, Education USA, we don't really advise as much on high school, but we get a lot of questions. So one question is, can an international student do a high school completion program, and does it need to be in person?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes. The high school completion program is open to international students, and no, it doesn't have to be in person right now. So I will say COVID-19 has changed almost everything that we do in higher education in the US. So before COVID-19 existed, my institution didn't really offer online classes. 99% maybe or greater of our classes, especially those geared towards international students, were offered in person, including the High School Completion Plus program. Since March of this year and moving into the foreseeable future, all of our programs, all of our transfer programs, so that would include High School Completion Plus, are being offered online. I can't yet say what is going to take shape kind of in the immediate aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it could be that we start operating in a realm where we do have more students that are taking online classes in kind of a regular environment rather than the environment we're operating in now. So I can't really say what's going to happen. Previously, most of our international students were in person. We had very few, if any, students taking online classes from outside of the United States. But you know, we're open to lots of things, and I think it remains to be seen what will develop after COVID. But to answer your question, the High School Completion Plus program is definitely open to international students. That is typically something that is offered at most, if not all, Washington State community colleges. And as I said, it is something that is unique to Washington State. It's one of our points of pride, I think, for most institutions in Washington State, because it does give students just something that's really different and unique from other states in the US.
Thank you. And the other question is, how many uh, how many more credits would it take for someone to, would they have to take extra credits, for example? Like, what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, so no, actually. So it's the exact same number of credits. So just to give a quick overview, on a quarter system, like that kind of exists here in Washington State, students have to earn 180 quarter credits to complete a full bachelor's degree. So all 4 years, 180 credits. For our transfer programs, they are all typically 90 credits. So you complete almost exactly half of the credits that are required for the full bachelor's degree. That's for both the university transfer program and the High School Completion Plus program. Now, so in that sense, the number of classes that you're going to take that are part of the High School Completion Plus is really no different. The same number of classes, the same credits you're going to take. But one of the things that makes it unique is that dual credit aspect. So a lot of students, and this is a question I get often, they think because you're earning both the high school diploma and the associate degree at the same time, that you do somehow have to take more classes. Really what it is, it's kind of doing things more efficiently rather than adding on more. So a dual credit means, for example, a biology course might be required for both a high school diploma program and an associate degree. So rather than having to take 2 biology courses, you're just going to take 1 biology course, and the credits, dual credits, are going to apply to both the high school diploma and the associate degree. So no additional classes are actually required, no additional credits are required. So it really is, it's a nice thing. The curriculum, I don't want to say the curriculum is exactly the same. Students have access to slightly different classes and class options in that program, but they really are given the opportunity to take the exact number of credits. So no additional credits are required.
Great. And we've got this question here, which I think is a great question. Earlier, well, we've been talking about the advantages of community colleges, and students, so that students can consider it more objectively. Can you also mention the advantages of entering a university in the first year?
Yeah. I'll be totally honest. I started off at a community college. I do have the perspective both as the person who works for a community college, but also somebody that personally started off at a community college. And what I think when I think of starting off at a university, I do think of it being just kind of easy. Not that starting off at community college isn't easy, but when you start off at directly at a university, you know that you're going to be in one place for 4 years, so you don't actually have to do that transfer process. We in the community college realm, we want to make the transfer process as easy as possible. So it is, so you have to do as little work in the transfer process as possible. But it's not without no work. You do have to put in some work to complete the transfer process. So I would say the biggest benefit to starting off at the university level is just simply that you get to start off and stay in the one place for all 4 years. And so you kind of have to weigh the options of whether that is kind of more worth it to you, or if the benefits that I talked about, the small class sizes and the savings, the affordability aspects of community college, which one weighs out. So there's a lot of benefits to starting directly at university. The one thing I will say, I always like to talk about misconceptions because there are a lot of them when it comes to community college. There is no less student life at a community college than at a university. We have different things. Big universities are going to have big sports teams and big, lots of clubs. We don't have any sports teams at community college, so that might be one thing that is a little different. But we have a lot of student life, a lot of on-campus clubs. Even right now, when we're remote, a lot of remote clubs that offer students opportunities to get to know each other.
Yeah,
So
and I
yeah,
can
so
attest to
that's the
that.
biggest thing I would say, is just talking a little bit about the ease of starting at a university from the beginning, because you don't have to transfer kind of in the middle.
Okay, and I can attest to the fact that there's a lot of student life. When I went to community colleges and for Education USA training, there was a lot happening.
Yeah.
Um, so there's two questions here that are related, so I'll kind of get them at the same time. Uh, there's a question about funding and financial aid. Are there any scholarships or financial aid available to international students? And the other question is, are there also loans available to international students?
Those are both great questions, and questions that we get all the time. So the first thing I'll say is that the answer to your questions, it does depend on the institution. So I can speak towards my institution, but just so everyone who's watching knows, the answer is going to be different depending on which institution you speak to. So I do know from my institution's perspective, we do not offer financial aid or scholarships to international students. And that really is to try and keep tuition as low as possible for everybody. So we try and keep tuition at the lowest possible point. And so we do not offer financial aid or scholarships. I would say, as a general rule of thumb, most community colleges are not going to offer full tuition scholarships. I can't speak blankly across the board. I'm sure that there are some that exist. But most are not going to offer full tuition scholarships. There might be some that offer small scholarships here and there, but that really does depend on the institution. And when it comes to loans, it really does depend a little bit on where you're looking to get the loan. So I will say, from the perspective here in the U.S., international students are not able to apply for federal student loans that are part of the US federal government. Most American students have access to US federal loans through the government. International students do not have access to those loans. So typically when it comes to loans, international students are left with private banks, either here in the US or outside of the US in your home country. And that really is up to you. If you would like to pursue a private loan, you would have to do so at your own risk. That I know there are loans available for international students. I don't know of any specifically, but I do know they exist both at American banks and banks all over the world. But when it comes to loans, I do know that I don't believe there's any publicly available loans for international students here in the US.
Great, thank you. And I think that answer, "it depends," is something that we say all the time, but don't be afraid to ask, the
Yes, very good question.
international student people. We've got two questions that are somewhat related here. Do transfer students, I guess when you transfer, can you choose which university you go to? And the other question is, do transfer programs, are they only applicable for transferring to university? Can you also transfer under a 2+2 to a liberal arts college?
Those are both great questions. So the answer to both is that you can transfer anywhere where you can gain admission. So you can transfer anywhere. That's the most important thing. Now, we can't guarantee your admission to Harvard University. This is my one example. We have students that come to us and they want to start with us and they want to transfer to the Ivy League. So something like Harvard or Columbia, University of Pennsylvania. So from our perspective, we really want you to transfer to the Ivy League because then we get to put you in our brochures and kind of talk to you. You know, we get to talk you up a lot. But it's not possible for everybody, and we can't guarantee that transfer process to a more competitive institution. In fact, there are few institutions that we can guarantee a pathway to, but in that sense, we do have university partners. So most community colleges are going to create university partnerships to make the transfer process more easy. And those university partners offer guaranteed admission based on your grade average while you study in your first 2 years. So and as I said earlier, some have higher grade averages, some have lower grade averages. So there's a very wide range. So kind of no matter where your grade average falls, you're going to have a guaranteed pathway to a university if you're looking for a guaranteed pathway. Outside of a guaranteed pathway, there are plenty of universities that don't offer that guarantee, but still have very flexible, easy admissions you're not going to have a hard time finding a university that is going to admit you. So really the question comes down to the more competitive universities. We can't guarantee your admission. Your application thus has to speak for itself. So you have to be very competitive with your grades. You have to be very active outside of the classroom, very involved in both on-campus and off-campus curricular activities, extracurricular activities. So there's a lot of things that factor into admissions, but the answer is you can transfer to any institution, very competitive, very high ranking. You mentioned liberal arts colleges. There are many, many liberal arts colleges around the US, all of which you can transfer from a community college to a liberal arts college. So there really are no limitations on where you can go. It's just simply about whether you're able to gain admission to that institution.
Great. I think we have just about 2 more minutes for questions, and here's a great one. Is there a work permit similar to OPT or CPT after graduation from a 2-year program, or does it solely depend on the student's ability to get an H visa?
That's a really great question. And this is one of the things, I actually didn't mention this earlier, but this is one of the things that I find to be a benefit of community college. So when it comes to, I'm going to focus on OPT because that's something that we offer a bit more regularly to students. OPT is after you finish a certain threshold of your higher education, you're given an opportunity to work in your field of study in the United States for a certain period of time. And the nice thing is that you can do OPT multiple times, but it has to be after a new level of education. So unfortunately, you can't do OPT twice at the same level of education. But what that means is if you do an associate degree at a community college, you are given 1 year of OPT access after your first 2 years. So what that means is you have a lot of options when it comes to OPT. You can take your first 2 years and earn your associate degree. After those first 2 years, you can complete a 1 year, up to 1 year of OPT work permission. So you could actually take a break between transferring from community college to university and spend that time working. And then you're also, once you finish your bachelor's degree after your 4th year, you're given another year. So at the very bare minimum, if you kind of, depending on how you want to do it, you could complete 2 years of OPT throughout your time during your education. One year after your associate degree level, 1 year after your bachelor's degree level. So it just depends a little bit on what you're looking to do. Not all students want to take that break in the middle. Sometimes students want to go directly into the university setting. So it just depends, but that's something, if you start off at a community college, you finish your associate degree, you do have access to that OPT that 1 year of OPT after the associate degree level. So it depends. And then just so you understand, you can do it after, you can do 1 year of OPT after your associate level, one after your bachelor's level, one after your master's level, and graduate level. So it does, you have multiple options to complete OPT at different levels.
Okay, and we're just about out of time, but there are two questions more. One of them I'm going to answer myself. What kind of high grade should I get to go to Harvard? I'm going to recommend that student go to harvard.edu and check that
I'm
information.
sorry, it's always such a bad example. If I use Harvard as an example, it's, it's a great institution, and I use it as an example all the time.
So I think the answer to that question might be exactly what we expect it to be. This last question, though, there's an education consultant who said that community college students are mostly adults rather than students age 16 years old. Is that true? So I guess the question is it true that students at community colleges are mostly older students?
No. I'll say a few things. The first thing is that we do accept students of all ages. So I would say in my top 5 questions that I get in my job, one of them comes from students that are in their 30s or 40s, and they are looking to start at a community college. So from that perspective, we have absolutely no age maximum. As long as you're 16 years of age or older, you could be 99 years old, and in theory, you could enroll at a community college. I will say from the perspective of international students, we do tend to skew on the younger side. So on average, most of our international students are probably 17, 18, 19. So on the younger side, most of our international students are about the right age for a community college level. From the American students, so I understand where this perception comes from, because I think in a lot of cases, many American students may be starting community college when they're in their early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, 30s. So there is a wide variety of ages on campus for most community colleges, but when it comes to international students, it is important to note that, at least at my institution, the average age is the average college age, 17, 18, 19, 20, right in there.
Sure, and I think it's also important to note that at any institution, any four-year institution as well, there isn't really an age limit. So you can have older students applying to any four-year institution because we don't have that type of restriction. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for your help today, and we want to thank our viewing audience, our live audience, and our audience that might be watching this on YouTube later. If you're watching this now and want to go back to it, it's available on Facebook if you're watching it, and it's also available. It will put it on YouTube sometime next week. Thank you for joining us on our virtual week and roadshow. We hope you enjoyed this International Education Week program, and we hope that you will visit Education USA for any needs that you have if you want to study in the United States. Remember, we are the US official source for US higher education, and we are here to help you. So thank you very much, and good luck to all of you. Please don't forget that we have our roadshow video for today, also on community colleges and intensive English programs, and you can find it at this link. Thank you, everybody.